Yes, so welcome to the PM Coaching Podcast. I am the host, Patrick Mullen. Today we have professional scout and professional coach, Sam Barker. Welcome on today, Sam.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and this podcast is recently new, and each sort of guest there'll be some sort of sport related question. It can be any sport related. Last sort of podcast, and the first one was Who Am I? This week's just sort of the general sort of knowledge in the sporting world. And the question today that you've got is which two only players have played and also scored in the top five leagues within the last 15 years? There's only been two
Oh,
players who have played and also scored in the top five European leagues. Who are the two?
oh, oh, God, what a question that is. Um, I've got a feeling Jamie Vardy's one of them, but I'm not sure of the other one. Oh,
No, not Jamie
uh,
Vardy, no. He's played and
is-
scored in five of the top leagues. I don't think Jamie's only probably two or three.
oh, goodness me. That's a conundrum and a half, that, isn't it?
The leagues, like the top five, will be more like this player's been around the block. So it's more likely the likes of Bundesliga, Spain, Serie A, and the
Mm.
Prem. Like them sort of leagues this player's played and he scored
Hmm.
a few goals in field.
The other one that's come to mind is Mario Balotelli because he's been about a bit, but I'm not convinced it's him either.
No, not Mario.
Or maybe Zlatan. Has he been around a few leagues enough to get that?
No, Zlatan's not the answer, no.
Oh, blooming heck. I think I've run out of options.
Five, I think Zlatan's probably three,
Mm.
but it's not the probably because like
Mm.
I don't think Zlatan's played. He's not played in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, that's a fair point, isn't it? Wow.
Was Zlatan Prem, Serie A,
He did
Spain?
MLS as well for a bit, didn't he? And then he did Eredivisie because he played for Ajax as well.
Yeah, I think Zlatan's probably three or four, but I don't think he done too much at Barca. Like
Yeah, he was there
th-
as well, wasn't he? Yeah.
this sort of it was a tough one because he must have played a good sort of games in these five leagues, and he's played and he was a consistent sort of he scored a good few. I think
Oh.
Zlatan's close, but it's five leagues. I think that there's some close you've got like three or four, but it's not the sort of answers on this
Mm.
sort of question.
I keep thinking of other strikers that have come through, and I think there's a couple that
One's
I
a
can think of
winger,
through.
and I thought in the year like it was quite recent that the second player broke it.
Oh.
Quite recent. So like it was he joined the Prem quite recently.
Oh God. Oh.
That's a hint.
Oh wow. I'm stumped because I'm a Leeds fan, so I don't get to watch a lot of Premier League football. Um. Oh God. Yeah, I'm stumped
That,
completely.
and then the second one, he was in the Prem for a good way under that Man City team.
Part of the Man City team.
He played around that sort of probably around the Jacko era. Jacko was at Manchester City.
I'm literally going through loads of different people in my head, and
Oh
I
God.
thought of Patrick Kluivert because
This
he's
will
been
get
in
a
three
few people.
leagues, but I think that's only three or four, not the five, because he was at Newcastle in the Prem, wasn't he, Kluivert? Oh, you stumped me. You've completely stumped me.
Won't me give you the first one? The first player who scored within the last 10 years, 15 years, the first answer, and then you can
Mm.
probably think of it the second. So
Mm.
what? So one of them, I'll give you the one of the first is Justin Kluivert, not Patrick.
Oh, is
Justin.
it Justin Kluivert?
Yeah, Justin. He recently joined Bournemouth, and he scored a few goals there quite recently. He started off at Ajax, so Eredivisie.
Yeah.
He's good few goals there. He went on loan to Roma, to Serie A, and then he
Yep.
went to the Bundesliga on loan to Leipzig, and then he was at Valencia, and then he was at Nice in the League One.
You're correct. Yeah, you're
That,
right.
that was he's the most quite recent one, and then the second one is that sort of potato.
Yeah, I'm stumped.
It's a brain tickle, the second answer. And
Yeah,
that
I haven't got a clue.
snip around the Man City team if around that Jacko era. We're along the right lines with Balotelli.
Oh, who's another journeyman? It's a mega tough one, isn't it? What other strikers did they have that weren't great, but they scored a few goals? Was that Joe character there? The fella that played in Russia? Was he there at that point?
No,
That Brazilian striker? Oh my God.
I don't think he's played in the other two.
Hmm.
I think most people probably think around that this player's played around three, but did he realistically get a good few goals? I don't think this sort of question that goes off like one or two.
Hmm.
Right? However, in these few clubs, he did get a good few goals in all of them. Like, I think that's what they go off. I
Hmm.
don't think one or two will get it.
Hmm. Yeah, go on, put me out my misery then, because I ain't never going to get this one.
Stefan Jovetic,
Oh my God.
Montenegro striker. He played
Yeah, he's
at
been
Man
about, isn't
City,
he?
then he went to Serie A Fiorentina, then he went
Yeah.
to Berlin Bundesliga, then he went to Monaco for 4 years, and then
4 years.
on loan at Seville. That was the tricky one, on loan at Seville. Both of them players the loans, but they did
Hmm.
score a few good goals in them loans. That's what the sort of. But that was the question. Even if like it's on the social medias, if some people don't, but they were the two within this era. I don't. Well,
Wow.
I was not in it. Or Zlatan.
That's mad, isn't it? Because, yeah, you keep thinking about it. There's quite a few strikers that have probably done 3, 4, but not quite your 5.
Yeah, that's the.
Wow.
It's probably the last. Like, that La Liga won't get you, but I don't know if Zlatan done in La Liga because Pep fell out with him. I don't think he did too much. Because Terry Henry and David Villa, I don't think Zlatan did too much. For sure, he always tried to take him off and stuff. It's like
Hmm.
these five leagues were the making and did make an impact in all five, and so did Stefan Jovetic. Like
That's mad, that.
both the, like some players like they go to these leagues, but it's not like you go to the league. It's sort of that
Yeah,
sort of to make a sort of impact. They get the answer.
that's crazy.
Yeah, only two recently.
That's madness, that. Because then you think some of the big players, like the big players, only stay in the 1 or 2 leagues, don't
One or
they?
two leagues. That's it. But it's some players move, but they don't really, as I said, they push a good firepower in them leagues. Like that's the sort of tricky about this question. As you said, most of them stay around one or two clubs, but it's
Because I
best
also
five in the
thought
league.
Hazard as well, because he's been about, isn't he? But when he went to Real Madrid, it kind of just didn't work out for him so much, did it?
That could have been a good one. But
Jeez, I thought I knew a bit about football, but that proper stumped me off.
you'll get a few of your mates for that one.
Oh, I will, I will.
Yeah. First sort of topic, sort of just tell us like that some people in this podcast, like I know I'm back home in Ireland, so some people probably won't know who you sort of are. So like just a brief sort of your background for start, and
Yeah,
then the second part of the quiz, what inspired you to go into the scouting sort of world?
yeah, sounds. So, in regards to background, the master of all trade, sorry, I participate in all trades, but the master of none. Um, so I currently am a few things. At the current time, I am a academy scout for League One now. Sorry, Northampton Town. I'm also a skills development coach for League One Northampton Town. A academy coach for AFC Russian and Diamonds, who is the Phoenix club of the big Russian and Diamonds that used to be in the Football League. I've recently finished with Scottish League Two club Stranraer as a first team scout.
Gosh.
Any others? Oh, and I'm currently part of the coaching team at Step 6 side in the Spartan Midlands Division 1 side Long Butby.
But it's sort of like the experience is like one of the best I've sort of been in my like I'm only 21 and sort of I've met some people who are in the coaching and but like the sort of that sort of experience you're probably one of the most experienced and probably you're,
I have got a tagline locally that I'm the busiest man in football.
yeah it's some amount of detail and I seen like did you have a spell at Felice was that Argentina was it
Well, I've been at a few
oh,
foreign clubs. So I've been at Odense Bowl Club in Denmark.
yeah
I've been a national scout for the nation of Samoa. That was a really good job, I'll be honest with you. I've also worked for Vélez CF in Spain.
yeah
So that's the one that I think that you thought was the Argentinian one because they do get mixed up quite a few
was
times
it
because
the
they've got the
Spain
same
one was
name.
it? Yeah. And then
Yeah. And I've been Yeah, I've been about.
Yeah, how did you adapt to the sort of scouting with that national team Samoa? It's completely different
So
compared to the football club
yeah,
level. So how did you
yeah.
sort of
National scouting is completely
yeah,
different. It's Samoa was luckily for me. I was looking in the UK areas and other areas. So I was a researcher for Football Manager the game for LA Galaxy. So that gave me a bit of an eye opener to the top two leagues in the MLS. And there's quite a lot of Samoans
yeah,
in America. So that helped. And there was quite a few Samoans in England, to be honest. One of my claims to fame is that there was a girl playing for the University of Nottingham.
yeah?
Um, she had a very Samoan surname. We checked it all out, and she was Samoan. And 6 weeks later, she made her debut for the Samoan ladies team.
You learn something new every day, don't you? I really knew it myself. Like since I moved to Wolverhampton, haven't really met much people like that sort of nationality. It's met a few
Yeah, it's a bit few and
Germany
far
people,
between,
Germany
but
and Polish, but Samoans like in sort of England, that's sort of like an odd one. Like since I moved to England, I wouldn't have thought Samoa. Since I seen it on your page, I think that's quality. Like had and then you said University of Nottingham, that's sort of class.
to be fair, it's generally in areas where there's a high percentage rate of rugby union teams. Because in Samoa the national sport is rugby union,
Yeah,
and they're very good at it. So generally, where you have locally in Northampton, Bedford Blues, the rugby union side, is run by a former Samoan player, and in that area, there's quite a few Samoans in the Bedford area, so it kind of helps to look there. And you kind of just use a bit of knowledge, use a bit of brain power about it. So if you see there's quite a Samoan contingency of supporters or like rugby teams, you kind of look in that area, and then you'll find people. There's quite a few in Sweden for some odd reason as well.
yeah, class. Like I think that's sort of when you adapt in the scout, well, you find out different things. You say like before you probably went in scout, you wouldn't have probably knew that sort of Samoan, but then when you went in, you've learnt all these new sort of nationalities that they're actual players, which is quite
100%.
class. And the football manager, I'm addicted. Like even when I started playing in my younger days, and it's brought me into coaching, and then I'm going in the analysis. So like it all started with that football manager. You hear managers start with football manager, and then they go into it.
So,
It's not
so
what
I'm
they
a
do.
massive fan of football well, championship manager because I'm a little bit older than yourself. Um, so I'm a massive fan of Champ Man. I used to spend hours, misspent youth, playing championship manager 0102 because I'm that old.
Yeah.
And that was like my big game. I still play Champ Man 0304 to be honest, because I don't really like football manager. And it gives me a little bit of a heads up because I know some of the players, obviously.
Yeah. It's mental now that the sort of technology that they've actually put VAR in the football manager, and like it makes me go crazy. I'm competitive, and like they put VAR in a video game. You wouldn't have thought about that. Like the increase and the footage has got a lot better. Which
When I first started playing it, it wasn't even like dots or blips. It was all text.
the wee dots as well. Sometimes the wee dots, but now they've actually
Hmm.
put footage that they're actual players, which is class, and that's sort of adapting. But like
Yeah, I
they
watched
work on that
Lelujo.
sort
You
of
know
game.
the YouTuber called Lelujo, the one that runs the Football Manager stuff. So he does non-league to legend. And I was watching that the other day because he's done a local club to me, Tamworth.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, the graphics of Football Manager, it's like playing FIFA on your phone nowadays, isn't it? It's exactly the
They've
same
actually
thing.
put it on the Xbox, my mate said. Like,
They have, yeah,
actually,
they have, yeah.
near enough the same now, but probably people still prefer the laptop as it's a bit better. But my mate said he got it on the Xbox and he still like said it's still class. That's how the
It's due to the amount of teams that you can get in it. So the one on the laptop or PC version is a lot more of a bigger database. The one on the console is just basically the big 6 or 7 leagues.
Yeah, I'm just addicted. It's sort of like it's
That's
just
my claim to fame, though. I've been on the last three,
like
so
sometimes
I'm a
I
playable
join Dave
character on the
that
last three.
you're playing Foot Manager for about 5, 6 hours, and then by the time it's bedtime, you don't have time to go out. That's what people don't understand. When you get that sort of thing, it's addictive. And but you learn
The
a
amount of
lot.
Saturday nights I've lost due to Football Manager is outrageous.
But you control your management when you can see the last minute. The other laptop's going out the window.
Yep.
So the next sort of question I'm trying to ask you is you're sort of the scout. Where do you start with the sort of talent identification and at sort of youth level? what sort of, in your opinion, do you sort of like look for in the sort of talent
So
identity?
it depends on the level of the club. So I'm not sure if you or your listeners are aware that each club at academy level is a category. So it's Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3. Um, in England, anyway, that's how that works. So each club asks you to look for different things. So at youth level, you're looking at development of a player or potential development of a player, just as much as you would be at a first team level, but obviously it's different.
Yeah,
So as an example, when I was at Russian and Diamonds, I'd be looking for taller players, stronger players, quicker players. At that point, obviously, with youth football, things change in the blink of an eye. With youth football, one day you could have a player that's 10 years old and he's certain height, and then 2 days later you see him again and he's grown 4 inches. It just happens. But when it's a completely different kettle of fish. I kind of explain to people that youth football and men's football is two different games for me. Youth scouting and men's scouting are they're completely two different environments. Just because it says the word scouting doesn't really transpose between the two. It doesn't, because you're looking for different things. So when I'm a first team scout, when I was at Samoa, I was looking for people that were Samoan firstly.
yeah,
Ability wasn't the biggest be all and end all. It was to see if they're actually Samoan. With youth players, you're looking for that potential ability. When you're at a first team, you're looking for that instant impact type of player. So it's a really broad horizon and different subjects.
yeah, and the sort of the growth that you say, like people like sort of go at different stages. So like if the player's sort of like taller, would you still like try and get him, even though his improvements and sort of tactical still need to improve, or would you say no? I'm looking more sort of his tactical sort of in between.
It all depends on what the needs of the club are. I personally have my own ideal idea of what a player should be or what I'd be looking for. But if the boss says we're looking for this type of player who can do this, or we're looking for this type of player, then that's the type of player you have to look for.
Yeah, and it links on with the sort of question three. Like when you're sort of scouting, do like the manager give you specific sort of instructions? Like don't sign this player or like look for this sort of age. Like if it's sort of like
Um,
under 16, look a bit younger or
so
look a bit older.
generally, within the clubs that we've been at, it's never the manager that really makes contact. So depending on the size of the club, you'll have a head of recruitment or head scout, and they'll give you the requirements from the manager. It's very rare that at many of the clubs I've spoke to the manager. It just so happens at Stranraer I did, because he's a bit of a championship manager legend himself, the manager at Stranraer. So I had to speak to him because I had to.
Your
But
ways
other
better.
clubs, of course, his name's Scott Agnew, and he was like a 15-year-old on Champman 0102, and he was a bit of a Wonderkid. So I had to have a chat with him.
Yeah.
Intrigue got the best of me. But at other clubs, it's not quite the same. Depending on how big the club is, obviously there's more key figures prior to getting to the management team. Samoa itself was a little bit different, that I was getting in contact with the head of recruitment, who might as well have been part of the management team as well.
Yeah.
But then when you're like at the Cobblers, it's the head of recruitment that tells me what they're looking for and what age groups to look at. And we go and look at the games. We go back with our findings. We put players in so for me personally at the Cobblers, I look for under 6 to under 16.
Yeah.
So I could put any of those age ranges in
Mhm.
on any given time if required in that. So if there was 30 spots at the academy and there was only 27 players, we would be told that age group needs players and what type of position, but it'd be up to us to find them, rather than a manager going, don't sign that player, don't look at that player, don't look at this one.
It's a
But
quite
obviously
interesting one because
there
like
is a
sort of
little bit.
you sort of
Go on.
like it's quite interesting because you say that don't really speak to the sort of manager at some clubs when I thought you would have, because like it's sort of that manager, like it's his sort of lineup and his sort of like, as you say, like if he wants 18 players, you want to sort of know that. But you say it's quite interesting that it's the sort of head of recruitment and then the manager
Mhm.
at sort of youth level, but that's on your the manager first at sort of senior level because that
It's
championship
not that you don't
manager,
know the
but
managers at those levels, but they have 100 million. As you know, as a coach, you have
yeah,
101 million things to do, and having a 5 minute chat off a scout that you've probably not met before because they're remote, um, for some of the clubs that I've been at, is probably not the right thing they want to do. They've got a lot of other things to do with their time. So one of the other clubs that I was at, like with Velez, they were building a database for the manager. So the database was, we did opposition reports and then individual reports. So we had a massive database of maybe like 100 players as an example that the manager would look through to see if he recognised any of them or who he was looking at. Or does that make sense?
Yep, and sort of like how do you build that sort of scout report? Like if you did a first scout report, as you know, like probably the first scout report probably not be good, and then you probably watch them again. The scout report two will probably be a bit better. But how do you compare scout report one versus scout report two, and then sort of report?
It depends on the club's needs again. So some clubs that I've worked at, I can't really discuss what each club did, but I can kind of give you an overview and not name the club itself. So there was a few clubs that would just, it would be very, very basic. It wouldn't even be a scoring system. It would be details of player at academy level, details of player, details of parent, preferred position, and areas of why I looked at positives and negatives. When you're looking at other clubs, there's a score sheet. So you have physical attributes, mental attributes, technical ability, and other category, dependent on what the boss wants. And then you'd score sheet. So it's generally 1 to 5, 1 to 10. And then we do 3 reports on a player generally at those clubs. So you get the first one where you could have a worldie, you go and have another look. And then you've got your other 2. What they were doing at another club that I worked at is one scout would look at him the first time.
Yeah.
Another scout would look the second time. And then the head of recruitment, if both scouts said he was good, would look at him for a third time. So there's 3 sets of eyes on one player within the space of a month.
Yeah, and then what sort of like challenges have you faced in the scouting world? And what's been your toughest challenge to hit back on you, like setback?
COVID was a killer. But I didn't know any different at the time because I learnt to be a scout, or I did all my qualifications as a scout during COVID because lockdown was about. There wasn't a lot of football to coach. There wasn't a lot of football to watch. And I'll be honest, I am the biggest football addict ever. I watch, even if I wasn't a football scout, I'd be watching football games from the back end of nowhere because that's what I do. I like to have that knowledge. So that's where it came from, coming through lockdown. When we were in lockdown, getting to academy games was non-existent because it just wasn't available. And VO is good, but not so good when you're watching the back end leagues where you might have a post in the way of the VO.
Yeah.
Like a stanchion at a ground. That's
some
not
of the
helpful.
coaching teams I met, the field sort of disrupt some of the games, and you can't really get much view. That sort of disturbs the sort of, if there's a post, as you say, in the way.
And for me personally, the biggest setback of that is I want to know a player's mentality. You can get a lot from a video. People think they know Premier League players, don't they? When you've seen a certain Premier League players playing the Prem for 10 years, what you don't see is his mentality outside of football. So he could be a really nice guy or he could be horrible. Do you know what I'm saying? It's all about those mental things in football. The mental abilities are so much more prevalent nowadays than they ever used to be, I feel. So there's your difficulty, that if you can, a player's ability could be great. On the pitch, they could be amazing. Off the pitch, they might not be. There's obviously quite a few examples of that, like Ravel Morrison is a prime example. On a previous podcast, when I spoke to one of his former teammates, they said he's the best player they've ever played with, ever. Technical ability should have been skipper, should have been everything and more. Mental attitude killed his career. As a team, would you want to put I'm not saying this is any club that I've worked at, your 20 grand on a player, you buy him, 2 weeks later, he's not playing for you because there's some mental attributes that you weren't aware of, and you spent X amount of money, you brought him in. So as an example, if it was a foreign club and you're buying an English player, you've had to get them accommodation, you've had to get them their wage, their sign-on fee, and it could be one where there's your difficulty because you didn't know what you were getting into.
Yeah, as they sort of say, what is it? Sort of like 95% in the brain and only 5% technical ability, but should have look for, because it's all mostly in the head at the end of the day. And if they could have all the ability in the world, but if they don't have that mental brain, as you say, then it's hard to sort of get it.
But then if you look at kids in that instance, you can't do the same thing because it's not the same. Because as you rightly said before, kids develop at different ways. You could have a kid that's emotionally very stable at 10, but you might have a kid that's not very emotionally stable at 16. You have to know those things. And that's the biggest part of scouting for me. It's hard to watch a video and think, yeah, that player is really good, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So when I'm at a live game, I get to games an hour and a half before games because I want to see how X player trains. I want to see how he gets some of his teammates. I want to see all these contributing factors that you wouldn't see by watching a game of football.
And how he warms up and sort of stuff like that. What's his warm up routine and how he performs himself. How he gets
If I'm watching a player pre game and he's lackluster and he's messing about and he's just not doing what I'd expect of a footballer, and in my head I'm already lost interest.
Yeah, and the good one, because there was recently, I think it was on the overlap, Roy Keane was saying about that there was people telling him they're not saying Gabriel Cisse because of his past, but then when he joined him, turned out to be a brilliant player for him. People were saying like he had bad attitude, but then that shows you. Do you listen to the rumours or do you go with your sort of heart in your sort of way?
Yeah, it is a tough one, isn't it? Because as a coach, I am very much a coach that likes, it's going to kill me to put it out there, bad attitude players. I like to take a player that's got a bad attitude, bags of ability, but bad attitude. Because in my head, it's that old, like that old adage of a girlfriend always tries to change their boyfriend into something they want them to be. I'm the same with players that are naughty players that get themselves in trouble. Because I've been an 18s manager. So a couple of seasons ago, I was Wellingborough Town 18s manager. My team was full of waifs and strays that people didn't want because of their attitude issues. And I loved it. Because I love those type of players. I want to be that one. I'm a man management coach. I'm not great with the technical drills. Well, I'm okay, but I'm a man manager. I like to put the arm around the shoulder, give people a little cuddle and words of encouragement and all that kind of stuff. So I think you can't go off it as a coach, but as a scout, it's a different fit. I feel they're two different kind of areas. As a scout, I'm not going to put my neck on the line to bring a player to the coach that's got a bad attitude. But as a coach, if I choose to take a player with a bad attitude, then that's on my head.
Yeah, it's different sort of ways because like you don't want to bring a player to someone who the coach probably doesn't want. Whereas when you're the coach, it's up to you. So it's probably weighing it up. I'm just
I've
in
had many a
between.
player in the last 2 seasons that have been nothing short of a problem child in every sense of the aspect. But they've probably been the best footballing ability players that I've ever coached.
Yeah, but as you said, that sort of under 18 or like under 16, you want that sort of player with a wee bit of balls, as I say, that they get in there and just have. I hate when a player dribble past them without that sort of tackle. You want to like go through and get a yellow. That's what you sort of want in my sort of when I'm coaching the team. You want that sort of fight, but it's hard to find that in the kid because you can't coach a kid to tackle. That's the one thing you can't coach. That sort of fire to make that sort of tackle. You have to learn it through yourself.
But it does work
Yeah,
the other way. So I had a goalkeeper that's a very good goalkeeper when I was at one of the clubs at 18s level. Very, very good. Went on trial at a league team at that age. Was very, very good. But he got sent off a couple of times for me as a goalkeeper because the attitude just wasn't there. As I said, I like those ones that have the guts. I think that's a polite
yeah.
way of saying it. Have the guts, but there's levels, isn't there?
Yeah, Jason Statham, the mean machine, coming out like a madman, mean machine. But
He was this lad. For a kid that was under 60, under 18, he was 6'4" and a bit, and I'm 5'7", 8-ish.
yeah,
So trying to tell off a 6 foot goalkeeper when you're looking up at him and he's not having it because he's bigger than you and he's 18 years old is very difficult.
and the sort of what players out of all the players that you've scouted, which has sort of reached the highest level, and shout out to Brandon Burns for sending that question.
The most memorable.
The most like much of all the players you've been around the sort of block, which has been the best sort of player you scouted, which is playing at the sort of highest level. So which player you scouted and they've been at the highest level so far?
Oh, that's a tough one. 18s wise, it's been working out for me recently. I've seen a lot of my team that I had a couple of years ago at 18s now playing in step six. But scouting wise, oh, it's a tough one. That it is a tough one. Players that I've been told to look at before
So
that
like
we were
there's
looking at as a
some
club
sort
that
of
went off.
ways to put it in sort of like which players have you scouted is like playing at the highest level you think is right now? So like if you scouted the player and they're at like a good sort of level, so I think that's
So the one that one that I can really remember off the top of my head was when I was with one of the clubs. I can't really name it because obviously they didn't get the player, but they looked at Matthias Cunha.
the Wolves, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think he went to, was he somewhere in
Atletico,
Spain
I
as well?
think. Atletico Madrid he was at, and then Wolves got him transferred.
Yeah, so him. He's probably the most famous player playing at the highest level. But one of the most famous players that I've scouted was rather this person's dad. I scouted him because of his dad. So Tim Cahill's son played for Samoa, called Kyan Cahill, and I scouted him out playing for Macclesfield.
That's compare that to Theo as you were talking earlier, like that sort of Theo is not great. Whereas that Westcott, you get the whole angles, which is different. So you know that's that sort of person.
Huddle's the worst one, or Hoodle, or however you want to
And
say
you
it.
know, it's alright, but it's not the sort of great level. But it's alright. But I prefer that sort of when he sends games through the Westcott. But Huddle, it's just because of our platform we're only starting off, which we use. But
Mm.
do the clubs sort of change it up, or what? Do you just focus on the Westcott, or is there a different platform you use?
Depends on what football you're looking at. So with the youth football, it's Huddle or Hoodle, however you want to say it. With the foreign stuff, when I'm being remote, that's all through Y Scout. Well, there used to be another one, but I think that's closed down now. When I first started being a scout, there was something similar to Y Scout.
We mostly
I
use
can't
the
remember its
sports
name.
code and upload it from there. The sports code, you do everything. The
Say that
sports,
again.
the sports code, the Huddle sports code, and then we like upload it to the actual Huddle platform. But the sports
Oh,
code, we just upload it from there. The sports code's far better. Whereas the
hmm.
actual Huddle platform, you don't. It's not really much details. You said.
So when I did a bit of data analysis like you're doing, I used to use is it Longo match analysis where you tap the buttons every time something happens,
Yeah,
and that was a pain. Believe me, when I was doing it for my under 18s, watching a game where we got beat 6-0 that I didn't want to see again, tapping buttons for a pass and sorting out possession and
in the
stuff.
past, the misplaced, like keep touching the button. It goes on for about 2 hours, and you're can't get enough. But you said you don't want that sort of defeat. But when you're tapping the sort of button, it's sort of the nightmare. You create your own data sort of platform. Like you have
Hmm.
all these buttons. Like I didn't know there was so much buttons that you sort of create.
Oh
Like
mate, there's hundreds, isn't there?
yeah, misplaced pass, misplaced shot, and sort of this positive, negative. It's just there's so much. But I didn't know it until I got it. I just thought there's all this, but the amount of buttons is crazy.
See,
Corners,
I'm old school with that
corner
now. When I watch a
successful,
game,
unsuccessful corner.
when I'm old school, mate, I do it all by pen and paper now when I'm doing analysis rather than technology because I don't trust technology as much as my own eye. So if I'm writing down like a little tally chart for passes, like that's what I do. Like I have a little column for successful passes and a little column for unsuccessful ones and just start marking them off.
Yeah, and would you go off your own judgment either way? More like your own view, even if it
Mm,
was video or paper, you just go your own view rather than the sort of the data.
yeah, yeah, generally so. Because I've got a feeling that I might be a little bit autistic. So everything I have to do everything in a certain process, and the OCD of that autism kind of makes me do stuff in a certain way. So I know the outcomes of stuff, or I know where I think the outcome's going to go.
Yeah, it's hard in the sort of the analysis because you might see something wrong, but how you present it back to the sort of coach that you pull it, it's that sort of the way it up that you might see something quite obvious, but the coach probably still wants to play that way, which is the sort of hard way that you might see something wrong, but you have to,
And when you have no power to change things,
yeah,
is the worst thing.
no power. Like as you said, that sort of defeat, like that sort of 6-0, you have no power. Like you have to watch that sort of game for 2-3 hours. But like it's we have no control. We just have to do it and then pass back the info and it's up to that coach to sort of do it. Which
That's exactly what I had to explain to my under 18s player. So I did all that analysis, and I was the coach. So I was trying to explain to them, guys, like you come here and play an hour and a half. I spend 10 hours doing all the coaching bits, the layouts of the coaching, doing the analysis. Like I don't just turn up, gentlemen, like you do.
yeah.
And it's really hard to explain that to a bunch of 16, 17, 18-year-olds that have just found the joys of life, shall we say.
Yeah, it's because people just think it's not just the sort of what's in the game. After you click all them buttons, that takes about near 2 hours. But then the clipping, it overall it's near 4 hours. But the clip within the individual clips and all that, like it's sort of near 4 hours of your day, and you might like be frustrated that you're seeing like there's some stuff that I see I'm frustrated, but I have to keep that frustration in, put the more calmer way to the coach. You can't
Have you
just
ever tried to tell a 17-year-old he's doing something wrong? Do you know how
it.
that goes down? It doesn't is the answer.
Yeah, it's but the good thing I see is that they can't really back talk. Like when I first started coaching, where you can just tell a kid and then they might go, "I'd never done that." Whereas now going in the analysis, they can't back out like evidence and video analysis. They can't like argue back. It's plain and obvious that you two-footed someone or if you give away a goal, like it's sort of improvements way. But the main thing for me, they can't argue back, even at the top level. Like if that's the Premier League manager going in, like that's the good thing that them players improve a lot because you can't argue back. Like on a Saturday,
Mm.
if Man City were playing West Ham and the West Ham defender gives away a goal, that defender can't argue back.
No, I totally agree with you, and that's the best thing about VO and those type of things nowadays. That even at so, as an example, at Russian and Diamonds, I'm the academy coach for under 10s. We VO some of the games so our boys can see what they're doing. And I know some people might dispute the fact that under 10s shouldn't be analysing their own game because they're there to have fun, etc., etc. But I guarantee you, 10 of the 15-man squad there love football so much at that age. They want to know how to improve. They want to see those things. And ultimately, if you get a game recorded, you want to watch yourself play. I'm
Yeah.
34 years old. I've played a few games with VO. I've got them. Of course, I've got them. In a pre-season last year, I came on for my under-18s team played an adults men's team. I came on for the last 10 minutes and it was VO'd and I've got the VO. Of course I have, because we're all very egotistical as footballers, aren't we? All coaches or
Yeah.
anything to
But
do with
it's a
sport.
bit of both worlds, as you said. Like it's not like the percent back, but you want to improve the kid as well. But you want to give them some like life moments, like their best goals or best assists. Them sort of ways, as you say, you want to make them happy as well as their improvements. You don't want to go in ranting and raving.
And I think with certain mentalities of certain players, like I did my own podcast yesterday with two of the lads that I've known since about 16, 17 years old. They weren't the best players at 16. They're now 20. They're playing step six football because they work hard. They saw their improvements via the VOs that we had or any constructive criticism that we had or any videos of training. They looked at those things and took it in the correct way. There's some players that don't take it in the correct way and see it as a personal attack.
Yeah, it's but you learn a lot because like each player you deal with different. Like every human's sort of different. You're going to get some players that still criticize even if they see they kick a ball back to the keeper when they shouldn't. So like
Mm-hmm.
it's that sort of you're always going to get it, but it's improvement both ways. You can't praise everyone in the sort of coaching or analysis group, but it's the more the hope that kid learns, as you said.
And believe me, as a coach at certain levels, so I've coached men's football as well. I guarantee you, there's many of my men's players that hate me with a passion. They'll still play football for me, but they hate me with a passion because I'm constructive.
Yeah,
Or
because
what?
one of the lecturers said also that even at the senior, there'll still be that person still reject. Even if you go in with a video, they'll still put the blame on someone else.
Yeah, mate, I've had loads of players like that. And as I said, you don't need to like your manager to play for him. You just need to understand the terminology and what he wants to do. So I reckon if you did like a little survey of all the players I've ever coached, I would say that 70% wouldn't like me, but they'd all agree that I did a good job and helped them get where they wanted to be. You don't have to like somebody to get where you want to be. And I'm overcritical with my players because I expect the best. And I get it's either under 10s or when I'm coaching, obviously, like under 10s or whatever age group it is, I expect those players to do their best. I don't care about abilities. For me as a coach, as long as you run and you try your hardest, for me, that is the minimum requirement, the minimum standard.
Yeah, the main thing, like not trying what doesn't get me. If the kid starts walking out, that's what gets on my nerves the most. Like I can really care if we lose, but as long as I am starting 11, try the hardest. But if I always say if one of you come off the pitch, and if you only give 95%, I can't accept that. If you come off the pitch with 100%, I can shake your hand.
The problem is I'm the type of manager that I've pulled a player off in a men's game after 10 minutes because they weren't trying hard enough and they did not go back on again. It happens. As I said, I am a man management type of guy.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sort of when I first start, I'm sort of like as you were talking earlier, I'm sort of the opposite at the minute. I'm trying to improve my management. I'm more of the coach. I'm trying to improve my personal skills with a player, which as a young person you try and improve in it. But I
Mm.
think in today's game, the man management's crucial. It's
I'll,
compared to
I'll be
years
honest,
ago.
I was the same as you, but what it is that I went and got quite a bit of coaching experience at certain clubs. So locally, I did quite a few. I've been at a few Step Six clubs with managers. Like my current manager at the current time is a chap called Dan Carter, and locally he was quite famous for taking Rugby Borough through the league. He got them promoted. And then a previous manager that I've been with is like another like local coaching legend called Dan Stewart. So I've gone to clubs, and then I was at Malton with him as well, which is another Step Six club. So that's how I've learnt my man management. Because just like yourself, when you first become a coach, it's all about the technical part of coaching. You want to make sure you're doing X, Y, and Z correctly. Like you're there an hour early or half an hour early to set up your cones and do all that kind of stuff. But it's a hard skill to master, the man management. But for me personally, the best way to do it is go and watch others do it.
Yeah.
I used to be a very shouty manager. Used to be. I still am. But I used to like to put my point across, not in a negative way, but I'm just very loud. And that's the way that I always started with referees when I shook their hand at the beginning of a game. Really sorry, ref, but I'm very, very loud. But it's always positive. And I've learned from there that now I don't shout. I don't need to.
Yeah, there was a big thing that the sort of the Neil Warnocks and stuff, they're sort of saying that the game's changed. The likes that's why Pep and the Jurgen Klopp, their man management's top level. Whereas you don't really see like the Neil Warnock, like his documentary years ago, he's going and booting the change room battles. You don't really see it now. Like you see
I would suggest though that Klopp and Pep don't do a lot of the coaching at all. I would suggest that's down to their assistant managers, their coaching staff. So my coaching idol is Brian Clough. And from all the research I've done, I would say that he probably did 10% of the coaching and 90% man management. So he had Peter Taylor as his assistant that would do the coaching. Any club that I've been at since then, that type of mindset and that way they work is exactly how it is. So as an example, the club that I'm currently at, Dan Carter is the overall manager. He does the man management side, but Kyle, the assistant manager, is the person that does the coaching. And I think you're right. It has changed in certain years. Like I've seen coaches 2, 3, 4 seasons ago lose their head at the size of the pitch. I've met them since coaching against them, and they've changed. And I think that's due to the Premier League changes. I think you're right. Like for me personally, I'd love a manager like Alex Ferguson who's going to lever me if I play badly. Like that's what I need. That's the type of player I was. If I played badly, I wanted a manager to lay it in on me, tell me how bad I was, because the next game I wouldn't be. It's that simple. But that's not how it is nowadays. I think obviously you're a little bit younger than myself, and I'm not sure how people coached yourself, but that's not how it is. I've had situations where I've said something to maybe an under 18 that when I was 18 was more than acceptable, but maybe hurt their feelings now.
yeah.
So it's that fine line, isn't it? And I think it's all that mentality again, isn't it? So
And it's the sort of like at the younger days, like you can't really go into like an under 14s game and start putting balls around the pitch and going, you missed this pass, you shouldn't do that, which that would be just your child abuse or something. You can't do that. Whereas you have to sort of watch the words now with the sort of mental health and stuff. I think that's the big sort of improvement in it. But even at the sort of adult level, there's still mental health and stuff like that. So the sort of words that make the players like you and perform. Because the best performing teams have that team cohesion with the manager as well as the players. Like the
yeah,
best
I totally
performing
agree
teams
with you.
work well together. If one or two players fall out, like perfect same with Manchester United. Like I don't think they have a full starting 11 which is convincing. There's always one or two issues with players. First was Pogba, and then there was a Bruno issue, and then now Rashford criticism, and then Harry Maguire. There was stuff like that. He was criticised not starting as captain, sort of thing. So when you have one or two issues, that's probably why they're not the top three at the minute. The last two
See, I
years,
think with
them
Ted
issues
Hag, I
up.
think his issue is he's not. I'm not a Man United fan. I don't really care how Man United get on X, Y, or Z, to be honest. But I rated that manager when he was at the previous club because he was obviously in his own country. He knew the players inside and out, X, Y, and Z reasons. I think at Man United, he's probably a little bit out of his depth with his man management and maybe his experience because you're right. There seems to be an issue underlying at Manchester United, doesn't there? That
Yeah.
people don't seem to get on. Now, the amount of clubs that I've coached at, nobody's going to get on with everybody. It's just the way it is. But it's the way you manage things, isn't it? Like, if Man United lost Marcus Rashford, would that not be like a massive, 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 massive problem for them? A local boy come good, done everything he done during lockdown, and basically raised the profile of Manchester United as a club. And now he's on the peripherals and he's getting the arguments and stuff. But it's really hard to do. So I had a situation last season where I had two players that didn't get on for whatever reason. Eventually, I had to get rid of one of the players. I had to make a choice. That is the hardest choice I've ever had to make.
You're the best for the team.
Mm. And it just so happens that the player I chose was a little bit better than the other player, but that wasn't the contributing factor. Does that make sense? It was whichever one, you're right, was the best for the team. As I said, it just so happened that he was the better ability, but even if he wasn't, he probably would have still stayed at my club rather than the other guy due to his mentality and the way things were happening. So it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yep, and then the sort of next question, sort of how your knowledge of scene was like around the sort of 15 different countries.
Yeah, there's a couple in there.
Yeah, like Spain, Netherlands, Sweden, Samoa, Denmark, England and Scotland. Which one of them sort of countries would you say impressed you the most?
I had a feeling you were going to ask me that one. So I've got an easy way to answer that for you. So my lad is 10 years old currently. I really only got into coaching to coach him, and then it kind of escalated a bit further from there. So I want him. I want him to go. I want him to go abroad and play when he's 16. And I'd want him to go to Sweden or Denmark or some type of Scandinavian country, because those leagues impress me the most. The way that I could put it to you is they're physically strong countries that have good ability, but not as much as like Spain. Like in Spain, it's all about pretty football, isn't it? In the Scandinavian countries, it's more about old school English 80s football, brute force, playing ability, and just being a man. That's what those areas are about. Look at all the Scandinavian players that have played in the Premier League and across Europe. You're always going to get a certain type of player from Scandinavia, aren't you? They're always going to be quite a tough player. They're always going to be a player that takes no prisoners. Look at like Hryderson, Herman Hryderson, that was at Portsmouth, and he did the rounds a bit. Rock hard player. You wouldn't mess with him. Is it Aaron Gunnarsson that used to play for Cardiff?
Yeah.
Another Scandinavian player that is rock hard. Probably not the best ability footballer, but it's exactly what you want as a fan.
Yeah, he works hard. That's for the boy. Because I like the Iceland team because I am a Swansea fan, and the sort of Gylfi Sigurdsson and that Iceland team, they had one probably good sort of year, and that Gunnarsson boy, he was unreal with that sort of team. But I know they've broken up. Some of them are away now, but
there's so many talented players in Scandinavia.
They're like hard working, as you say. But then I think it's the underestimated countries which come that sort of physicality. The likes of Sweden, Iceland, Norway, with Holland is a perfect example.
Yeah, there's so many uncapped gems that you could find in those leagues. It's just looking for them. To be fair, when I was scouting in Spain, it was exactly what I expected to see in Spain in the lower leagues. Really, really skillful players, no end product. That is the best way, because there's lots and lots of, if you have a little look at it, there's lots and lots and lots of leagues in Spain. And that was the level. Like the skill level was immense. I'd say the skill level in the bottom leagues in Spain was probably similar to League One or League Two in England. But the final ball was the equivalent of Step 7 in England.
Yeah, I think
which is mad,
we spend too much on the keeping the ball in this. I know it's rightly the technical, but like, can't put the ball back in the net. Like all this passing the ball. Yeah, the person last week who had this question is possession too demanding in football now. And like the sort of all Premier League clubs try and play from the back. And that's the sort of point I get. And some coaches now are trying to look like get the 50 passes close, see it on TV and get this goal. Whereas I just like to play in the right areas, as I said to the person last week. I want my team to play in the right areas. I couldn't care like if you make 4 passes go. I don't really want my team to sort of play a ticky-tack around the box. And then you see goals conceded. But as you said, that Spain is the perfect example because they're a national team in that World Cup. Didn't really do too much. Like most of their games was like 60-70% possession. You're just going. Some people might not like it, but I think it's boring football.
I think it's boring football too. And ultimately, football is a results business.
Yeah.
If you keep hold of the ball, like I'm a Leeds fan, as I said earlier, in all of our games recently, and under Bielsa as a prime example, we'd have the ball for a lot of the time and do absolutely zilch with it. There's no point holding on to the ball if you're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
It's just
You look at the best teams, apart from that Barca team and in the Man City, there hasn't really been that much dominance. They've all been good, in my opinion, sort of counter-attacking. Like the Real Madrid team over the years, they were always counter-attacking when they won them Champions Leagues. They were never getting the 80% possession. Like so, and then you look at the Chelsea sort of team under the Mourinho when they won that league, they were not 80% possession also. So like there's two teams which so there's more than one way to football, but I just think that the session's getting too much into people because what they're seeing on TV now. Because it is getting a lot bigger, this sort of stats and possession. Like you saw Brighton and Bournemouth. It's all this fancy way, but it's what way you see it. Some people love it, but it just I think coaches are seeing it a lot now because even back home, you see a lot of coaches are trying to make their kids play the same way. Because on a Friday night they probably watch a Premier League game, lovely game, and then Saturday morning they wake up for their kickoff, go. They're getting annoyed and shouting at the kids because they don't make 10 passes and get a goal. Whereas, like,
see, I can totally agree with that because my lad plays grassroots football on a Saturday morning. I ref for that because I've just recently qualified as a ref because I wanted another string to my bow. And yet the
not
abuse,
for it, and later on,
the abuse that some not abuse because that's making it sound bad. The comments some parents make to their children about a lost pass is outrageous. I used to be that type of parent, I'll be honest, until I got a bit more knowledge of the sport and the way things were. I used to be that parent. I used to be that judgmental parent that was like, come on, mate. Like, why have you not made this 3 or 4 passes? But now I'm not. And I totally understand why I'm not due to the more knowledge that I've got. But you're right. I have seen a lot. And I have to admit, I am one of those coaches that do like to play from the back, I'll be honest. But I was doing that, I feel, with my lads before it was a Premier League thing. Because I feel at this level, we more do that in training, I'll be honest, because they need to learn how to pass under pressure. It's killing me to say this out loud. I don't care if my academy team that I run at Russian and Diamonds win or lose. I prefer a good performance. And then when some parents come away from a situation saying, oh, we won 4-0 and it was a great game, in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, we won 4-0, but you didn't do anything I wanted us to do. So personally, it wasn't really a great win.
But like, out of all the sort of teams, you very rarely see a team at a youth level like plays their skin at sort of 50 passes, which some coaches probably want nowadays in football because these courses and sort of the want and what's in the prem and even abroad that this sort of nice football. But like one of my favourite coaches is Diego Simeone. Like, his sort of innovation gets results, and that shows you that you don't need that sort of.
Would all that pretty football work on a Tuesday night in Stoke?
No, it wouldn't work on a Tuesday night down some teams in Ireland anyway.
That's what you got to keep thinking to yourself, like in that type of tactic. Like Premier League, this is what I've said many times before to a lot of people that I speak to.
And that's why probably some of them teams is to add on that they don't really do well in Cup. Because if you're going and drawn away to Portsmouth or away to Stevenage, will Brighton do that away there? Because I think Maidstone, they beat someone recent, didn't they? And Ipswich are a possession-based team. So we ended up there, mate. Maidstone. Ipswich.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? It's mad how things work like that. It really is.
Ipswich couldn't do it against Maidstone, so that it just should. I think I just love an upset. I don't know if because I'm a Swansea fan, but we over the years we tried to play it in the right areas. We were never like a Barcelona. We played the right when we were in the Prem, and then we got relegated. And trying to get that way, but it was more in the right areas, which I got to support them. Playing them in the right areas, up to meet you, go. Like playing that sort of round the back, I get frustrated when I see teams do it. But it works well.
My question to you is: so this is something I ask a lot of people. how can you find the Premier League relatable? So this is the way that I put it. I watch a Premier League game. I barely see a mistake from a player. Is that relatable to me? If I played in the Premier League, would I make a mistake? Yes. If I played in the Premier League, could I play at that standard? No. Would I be as quick as them? No. So how is that relatable to me? So I find that really awkward with a lot of kids that, obviously younger kids that support Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, all the big clubs. How can that football be relatable when youth football and the Premier League are two completely different games? So things
I
are not
100% agree.
transferable. So a naive coach that's watching Man City play a game and watching them smash the ball round and passing and all that stuff, and then thinks they can transfer that to anything below under 16s is naively silly.
Yeah,
That's the way that I'd put
100%
it to
agree.
them.
I 100% agree. Like, when I'm coaching, I don't only bring up Man City once. Like, personally, I'm a big Mourinho fan. So I am probably rivalry with that Pep Guardiola. So I will like defend Mourinho to the end, and will say he's probably the better coach. So I've had plenty of debates, and people will say Pep's better, but you like one or hate the other, and that's the way their rivalry goes. But I just don't really find that sort of exciting. Some people here
I
might
think
share it.
no, I think Mourinho's the better coach,
Yeah,
and I'll tell you the exact reason why. I think he's a better coach for what he did at Porto when he first started. If you look at that team, again, they were a team of waifs and strays, that Porto side. Once he left Porto, I think he made Porto at the time mega, 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 mega amounts of money for selling all of those players that basically did really well in was it the Euros of that year with Portugal as well?
I think it was sort of in it.
I think most of those players, correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, played in that one where they played Greece in the Euro final.
You might be right, but you're right in that sort of lane, because what he done, like his document, he was signing players from the second division Portugal,
Mm.
because he couldn't really get the players abroad. The way that his team was competing with like the AC Milans, the Man United, the Barcelona.
Has Pep done that though? Because for me
Yeah.
personally, I feel it's been put on a plate for Pep somewhat.
That's what I mean. Like, imagine Mourinho got 1 billion. Like, I don't think Pep, if we went to Monaco, would he win the league there? Or if Pep went to Athletic Madrid, if Diego Simeone left, he wouldn't do it there. Like, it's always Barca, and he had a club where he fell out with a lot of players at Bayern Munich. Like, were reports where he didn't really win the Champions League there. He didn't win the Champions League. He's only won the Barcelona, and then he took about that 6 years at Man City to win his
But
first one. So, like,
but look at the
I can
players
really
he's
say
had.
he's better than.
Look at the players he's had at his
Yep.
disposal. I get that Mourinho's had a lot of money to spend. I get it, but look at the team he built when he first came to Chelsea.
And in my opinion, that win that Champions League winter as well, like that Inter and Porto basically would count as 4 Champions Leagues,
Hmm?
like compared to Pep's 2. Like
Mm.
basically you would
And that
count
Porto
that.
side
Yeah.
before that Champions League were nothing nobodies to an extent. Like some of those players would not have got a move if it wasn't for if it wasn't for Jose Mourinho. Could you say the same about Pep? Has he developed so many players that now desire a move? He hasn't really, has
But
he?
I always
That's what.
say this, that if you look at that Barcelona team with Pep, like the whole starting 11, I know, like as we were talking earlier, that the Ferguson, he wasn't really hands on with the coaching. He was proper man management. Like
Mm.
that Pep, I don't think he would have needed to do too much. Like if you give yourself what Pep's team, the exact same starting 11, like it's one of the best teams. It's like a football manager team. Like Danny Alves, Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, David Villa. He had like Satari and Ray,
Look how
Messi.
many of those have gone on to
Messi.
be managers.
Yep.
See, for me personally, I think at the minute the best coach around, or one of the best, is Xabi Alonso. Because of look at the way he's come through stuff. Look at the teams he's had to build. He's had to build teams like second teams, because I'm sure he was like a reserve manager at one of the clubs, wasn't he? That he was at one of the bigger clubs, and he's had to build a team from rubbish compared to like first teams. So I feel he's going to be such a better manager. As much as it pains me to say it about Klopp as well, he did the business in another league where he had to build stuff,
And there's
as
some
we've just
people that
rightly
aren't
said.
for the club. Like some people like would say Klopp could have done more. I know he's leaving, but like if you look at his whole sort of dominance, I know But if you want to be the best, you need to beat Man City once or twice. And I think they only beat them once. And it wasn't COVID year, was it?
Hmm.
The COVID year. So, like, if you look at all the sort of, he had the players as well, like the same players as well. It's not like they weren't anything new. Like, they were signing players like everyone else. But, like, if you're considering Klopp over his era, no, Dortmund and Mainz, I don't think was anything sort of world class. It was,
Hmm.
it was good, but if you're going in that sort of era, that sort of dominance, I think he could have done more.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I
Yeah.
do. I think the pressure of Liverpool as a club somewhat had a degree of influence on Klopp as a manager. It's no disrespect to Dortmund, but it's a big, massive difference. Like I get that Dortmund's a very big club in Germany, but Liverpool is one of the biggest clubs in the world. There's a difference. Do you know what I'm saying? There's levels, isn't there? That's like me going from step 6 to League 2 straight away. Like there's big differences of expectations of everything there. So again, going back to Jose Mourinho, Porto is a big club in Portugal, but there's not really that level expectation. Like when he won the Champions League with them, did you see it coming? Did anybody in that year see that coming? It's always going to be your big clubs, isn't it? Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Ajax, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool's that are going to be in those finals, always.
But I think with him, that everyone looks at as sort of negatives. Like they forget that what Mourinho done at Manchester, still finished second and won the Europa League. Like with Fellaini up top, like, come on, like that's so he didn't have the players that Ten Hag or Louis van Gaal got. So like
Mm-hmm.
people are looking at Mourinho he left there, but look what he done. Like
See, with Jose Mourinho, it's jealousy of other people with him, I feel. So he's very clever. So I read I watched a documentary about him, and basically he was saying he comes out in the press, and I use this nowadays, but obviously not at a press level. He comes out in the press and tries to take all the attention away from his players. He makes that game about him. Because if all the attention's on him, then the players have nothing to worry about. And I work on that basis as well. So that's why there's so many negative things about Jose Mourinho, because he puts his head above the pulpit to be struck down, so they leave his players alone.
I love psychology, and like when you read up on it and sort of he's one of the few that is the mastermind of psychology in football. Like
Yeah, but look who he
not
had as his
not
mentor.
not
Bobby Robson was his mentor.
yeah, not much football managers try and like do what he does at the press conference or before a game. Like what he done versus Pep, like he tried to wind them up some chopping, and like the the Premier League with Chelsea saying like I am the special one. Like he winds everyone up, and like no one really talks about his team. So as you said, tries to make it all about him, and then the interview questions are about him, which is that takes years of their experience.
See, I think that shows for me as well, because in my
Yeah.
local area, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a liked manager. And it's for those reasons. Because I love the mind games of football. I'll be honest, since my legs went, I love the mind games of football. The amount of time on a Sunday league, the amount of time you don't want it, those type of calls.
Yeah.
He's not very good. You're getting to play all that stuff. Like the amount of
Yeah.
times I've been called an animal by opposition coaches and like told me I'm not fit to coach because I'm in their head, wound them up, and I'm living in there rent free.
Like some of my son, like I'm crazy on the sideline. I'm so competitive. I'm near enough exactly the same like Coach Mourinho. Like when stuff aren't going, I try and wind everyone up. If it's the ref or the coach or the players, like there was some centre back, like I think a year or two ago, like one of my teams was coaching. This was the player in the opposition. He was like having a stinker, and I was going, keep targeting, Bombi on ice.
Oh yeah, I say that stuff
Bombi
as
on
well.
ice doesn't want it. And then
I'll give
our
you
coach is fuming.
I'll give you a prime example of a situation. So I'll have to keep some names out and change the scenario somewhat. But here's a situation of massive mind games. So I was manager of a team. I knew there was a video going around of the opposition centre back doing something he shouldn't have been. That would be quite embarrassing. Let's put it that way. One of my team sent it to me. Was the worst thing they ever did. Every time he got the ball, I'd remind him of this situation. This team had been unbeaten that whole season. I was the first team to beat them at their home patch because I got in his head so bad. He got sin binned or carded or sent off or something or other. And then I went and did a Ronaldo celebration in front of their bench just to wind them up some more. So I was already in their head. I went on to win that game quite substantially. I've done that 2 or 3 times to managers, and that's why I'm hated in this area. But I guarantee my players love me at that point because I took all the attention away from them.
Yeah, and I do the exact same in Football Manager. See the press conference? Like if you're playing like a team, I bring up the opposition manager going, he's a rat.
I, I
I got fan once.
I do it all the time. I guarantee you there's lots of people listening to this podcast that will be listening because they hate me. But I work on the basis that all publicity is good publicity. So if you're talking about me, that means I'm living in your head rent free. And that means I'm already winning this battle before my team even steps out on a pitch with you.
Opposition coaches hate it. As we were saying, some of them do like the nice and like make it go their way. But if we bring something up, which is perfect Mourinho example, you want to be ahead. If you're behind, you very rarely lose the game. Like if that mental strength, you get ahead, some sort of banter or weighing someone up, takes one of their players and the coach will react, and then that's sort of way.
Mate, that's exactly what I like. The amount of times I should have been punched in the face after a game by players or a manager is outrageous because of the things I say for that night. I'll be like, before the game, I'm your mate. Even so, a prime example this Saturday, one of my former 18s players played against me the whole game. We're really good mates. We speak to each other 2, 3, 4 times a week. For the whole game, I was in his ear roll. In his ear roll the whole time. He don't want it. He's not very good. He don't want it. Hey, like, just give him the ball because he won't do nothing with it. So I was horrible to him for an hour and a half. As soon as the game finished, shook his hand, we hugged and we're talking to each other. We filmed a podcast yesterday.
Player can't jump.
Yeah, all of that stuff. I think a few months ago, somebody was playing football bingo with me. So they had a card of things that Sam might say. They got bingo.
Yeah, it's one of the favorite things watching Mourinho because like there was a perfect example that he told the John Terry and stuff that jumped down with Gary Cahill at a corner, but the ref has to stop the play. That's what it will. Because if only one player goes down, usually a play on. But if both players go down, like even just to fake an injury, then the ref has to stop the game. That's in the rule. Where some coaches don't know it, hard to believe, that both players have to go down. Like if two Chelsea players went on the ground, the ref had to stop the play because I think they were winning or something. Like it was late on in the game.
Don't tell me things like this because I'll end up using that tactic in a game.
It's a must. Like it's a sort of it's one of the few rules that coaches don't really know because I think like if your player goes down, I know that like some referees it's in that sort of rule book that they sort of start the play, but you see in the Prem that not much. I don't think most teams have used that rule since Mourinho. I'm surprised because it was a good while ago that it came out that it is in the rule book because if one player goes down, then it's usually play on because it's sort of because of all the flags. But if both
unless it's
if
a
both
head
players
injury,
go down, it's 100% it has to. Like even if VAR, it would be cancelled goal because like it's street injury, or you have to check on the player. Even if like the player said it was fake, like, Mourinho told us to do it because they were winning or something.
Interesting to know. I wasn't really sure of that, but now I will be.
It is a good sort of one to probably use if you're like 1-0 up, but it probably I think it hurts with all these new rules now with a team that happened when probably his first in at Chelsea, where there was only like 2-3 minutes at a time. But if you did that the 88th minute, it could be like 8 minutes out of them with football nowadays, where you're just probably them sort of it's hard nowadays people with all these. I don't know your views on that sort of all the time, but it probably I know people.
I think it's silly unless I'm losing.
Yeah. You want that. It's if you're losing, you want it, but if you're winning, you don't. Because some of the Premier League managers when they're winning, and then that's why there's so many like goals in the last 5 minutes now. Because like 96th minute, they're 98th, or stuff like that, which is quite crazy.
Yeah.
What sort of player do you think is the best Wonderkid in football right now?
The best player in football right now.
The Wonderkid. So like
the Wonderkid.
Best upcoming potential right now.
So I'm gonna have to go with one of my own, ain't I? Because as I said before, a Leeds fan, I think Archie Gray's my Wonderkid for me at the minute.
My sort of one would be the Oscar Bob at Manchester City.
Yes, a great show.
Had made a good interview that he's a smasher. Like just a few games I've seen him. It's just for that age, Man City, he performs like nothing new. Performs he's been there for a few years. The way he looks at it. like the training and what Pep said of him, Pep even said that he could be the next big thing.
Yeah, but Pep's not very good at keeping hold of his youngsters, is he? The ones that he rates, because didn't that fella go to Chelsea? Is it Cole Palmer?
Yeah. But if you look at
Yeah, so
some of their
I
wingers
saw
there,
him play. I saw him play for Man City under 19, so I did a bit of work in Manchester.
you get blue
Um,
sky.
and I watched him play. I watched him play against Slavia Prague or somebody like that in the Champions Youth League. And he was okay. There was better players. There was a player called Darko Gyabi who played in the same type of games. I was so excited that he signed for Leeds. He's not even made an appearance for Leeds yet. He signed last season, and I thought this Darko Gyabi was better than him. Mad, isn't it?
It's great, but I think that make because they sold a few of their wingers, like Mahrez and stuff, and like the forward line, they've been struggling. Apart from when De Bruyne was injured and he came back in, they were struggling a bit
Mm,
with their winger situation because you look at the bench, there's not much. Like Oscar Bob looks like that sort of winger, whereas Foden's
mm.
more. He looks more like behind the forward. He needs to play a bit more. Like
I've got this
and
feeling that Pep will be gone sooner rather than later in the next couple of years because I think it's as this is going to kill
he
me
has
to say
two
it as
more
well.
years. Two
With
more years.
Ferguson, when he was at Man United, he had that conveyor belt of kids coming through the whole time. Like, granted, they weren't all David Beckham and Ryan Giggs as youth players, but he still had like Chris Eagles coming through a little bit later and Kieran Richardson and those type of players that were coming through. Like John O'Shea, I believe, came through, didn't he, as well? And players as such like that. Man City are not quite doing that anymore, are they? They're buying their talent in a bit
Yeah, because
more.
they're like Chelsea. Like when you go on that foot manager, the amount the loans out, like Chelsea have loads and then City have loads. Like there's not much coming through. As you probably like one, two, or three. Like with Man United, they had like six or seven coming in there.
The Man City are a different side because they're part of the City group. They own 20 million clubs everywhere. So basically, they're doing what Brighton are doing, but on a very, very bigger scale. So Brighton are using that Moneyball thing, aren't they? That they used to use in baseball. You know that Brad Pitt film where they look at stats rather than the player. I think Man City are going the other way. They've got so much money they can just go and buy whoever they want and just not think about it.
And would you go off
Look
that
at the
Brighton
prime
scheme?
example is Kelvin Phillips.
Would you go off like the Brentford and the sort of Brighton scheme? Go off like sort of stats rather than physical impression, or would you go more physical?
I
And
could see
you
how
like
both
people
work.
can see people?
I could see how both work. I could see how they both work together. Um, I don't think the stats don't lie and all that business, but they do somewhat, don't they?
Yeah.
They just do. I'd want a bit of both. So that Enric player, you know, that young Brazilian that's recently signed somewhere.
Hendrick was it?
Yeah, and Endrick. I think he's from
Yeah,
Real
yeah,
Madrid, isn't
Brazilian at Real Madrid, yeah.
he? Yeah, so I watched a couple of. So after hearing about him potentially signing for Real Madrid, I watched a couple of the Brazilian games. He's good. Is he going to be that good though? Do you see what I'm
I think
saying?
they
Like,
spent a big fee on him. I think he's not even in their squad. He's in their academy. But like
yeah, I
they're playing like
yeah.
forward now.
It was to do with the work permit, wasn't it? So he couldn't leave. What was it? Santos? Correct me if I'm wrong. He couldn't leave the Brazilian side until he turned 16 or 18. I can't remember which one it was.
It was one of them. It was Santos or probably Fluminense or one of them. But I remember that sort of work. You're right in that sort of work permit, but like he joined quite recent. Like I think probably start of the year, and like he hasn't came through. And like, because what happened there, they went out and signed another person,
Hmm.
Gular, Arda Gular from for Nabache, who is
Hmm.
better than him. And like we're going, you're going as a fan, going, you went and scouted him, you got him in, the work permit's not going up. You went out and got Arda Gular, who's probably better. And plus you have Francis Junior, and then Bellingham. You're going in. Real Madrid are just a crazy club. You're just going, what's going?
They're they're building for the future, but is that future going to stop their future? Can you see Bellingham getting dropped at any point in the next 5 years? Just can't, can you? He's one of those type of players. But Real Madrid have got a
You don't
good.
know. Like an injury could like football's hard to predict. Like Bellingham could get an injury, then miss a year or two, and then that could drop him. Then they could sign him a midfielder. Because what Real Madrid do, they see the players out for long. January hits or the summer hits. They buy another midfielder. Not could it's all hard, but I think you're right. And sort of, I don't really see him drop. But football's just a wild sport, which
Look at Odegaard
anything.
as the example. Didn't Real Madrid pay an absolute fortune from him from a club when he was like 15 or 16? Sure, they bought him young. They paid an absolute fortune for him, stuck him out on loan to a couple of clubs, and now look at him at Arsenal. I would suggest, and another one it pains me to say, I think he's tearing up the Premier League, for me personally.
Odegaard.
Mm.
Yeah, he's like I
I
think
don't.
he's the
The
key
thing with
person
him though,
behind Arsenal. He is, in my
yeah.
opinion, if they didn't have him, they wouldn't be in the top two at the minute.
The thing is, I don't think he's finished progressing either.
But
I actually think he's got 2 or 3 levels to go.
I think what Real Madrid do is what if they see have 1 or 2, 3 bad games, like as you said, he was probably that young, and then they loan him out and then they sell him, and then he's turned out to be class at Arsenal, which probably comes back and hunt them. Because as you said, probably some of the youngsters might not come through well, and then they'll look back on Odegaard and go, "We missed one there." Because I think that sort of position is they're missing. They're saying like Odegaard is the same as Hendrick, and then the
Mm,
ball, no, the Bellingham, and then the Hub Vincent Junior. Whereas Odegaard was something unique.
mm. I
Whereas the
just think
brand similar
with Real
players,
Madrid, they've got so many teams they could field players out to because I'm not sure how long ago you played Champ Man, but they have like sister clubs and stuff, don't they? And partner clubs.
your
So
partner,
Real Madrid have got like, is it Castilla B? They've
Castillo.
got like a B team, haven't they? And
No,
that B
one
team,
time that one of them clubs was arguing with me, sending through, why did you not drop one player down? The got manager was nuts. Like
but do you
you
see what
get
I'm
a
saying?
combined
Like
foot manager and champ man, like it's
they could be sending those players out anywhere they could, and like those players are going to get games. Like so, prime example, another Leeds player. He used Luciano Becchio is a bit of a cult figure at Leeds from back in the day. He came through at Barcelona B. He played like 30 games for Barcelona B and scored like 10 goals. And you just the difference. He was never, ever, ever getting in the Barcelona team ever. He's not that good. Do you see what I'm saying? The difference between the two, and they could farm that whole team. So that Barcelona B team was 16 to 20 Barcelona players. So it was like any one of those players could go straight into the first team if they wished. And as you rightly said, with Chelsea, when you first take them over on Football Manager, wasn't there a big thing a couple of years ago where they had like 60 players out on loan?
yeah, but it always even now, even up to the new one. Like since I played it, like loads over the years, like every sort of football, there's always been at least that 30 plus loans, and then it just starts increasing. It wasn't that much, but you always go at these loans and they're just going, you can't even call up academy players. And that's probably why they went out and bought Cole Palmer because they sold all these academy players out in loan. And you're just going, what are you meant
I
to
would
do?
suggest as well that Chelsea are still paying those wages of the players that are on loan at clubs. Maybe not all of their wage, but the
And the big
majority, I would
thing,
suggest.
they got took over, and most of their wages, who they're loaning out, they're on big wages. Because the good thing about football is you can see their wages and it's near enough accurate. Like probably
Mm.
not to the extent, but it is near enough accurate to the because it gives the percentage. It's probably accurate in some way. That
Yeah, I think they get
them
it off
wages,
transfer market, don't they? That information.
yeah, and but the wages of some of them players don't out. You're probably right that they're still paying majority of the wage because some of the clubs that are owned out don't really have much funds.
Yeah, so back in the day, wasn't it? Chelsea had that connection with Vitesse. Maybe I'm saying
It
it wrong.
is. It is.
And there was that Royal Artem team as well that they were sending players out to, the other team that was like in that same division. And I think when I saw they sent Josh McEachran or somebody of that ability, because I
And
think
from
he was at
get-go,
Swansea, wasn't he?
there was a
And
big
he was
thing.
on billions. He was on like 30 grand a week at like 19.
I remember a story like one of my early days in football manager when from get-go was coming through Chelsea. He was like 5-star potential. And then now, honestly, I don't know where he is now. Like, honestly, I think he's went off the radar, but he was on loan constantly at fees. And then I think he had a spell at AC Milan as well. And then
Mm.
I don't know where he's now, but like, I don't think if you look at his career, that 5-star potential went out the window. But I don't think he's done too much.
Because he's not played consistently. Isn't there that one that was on loan at Fulham that had been on like 20 loans from the time that he was at Chelsea, and he was only like 23 or something, and he'd been at 20 clubs already?
It's like you can go through a whole day with him because like it's like Fulham because Fulham's like Fulham or something like that. They always send them to the Fulham because I always notice in Fulham it's something that I don't think they're fully like because there's some sort of rivals, but somehow, as you said, there always 1 or 2 loans that go to Fulham.
It's because it's literally next door to each other. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you've been to the grounds, but it's literally a 5-minute walk between the two grounds.
But like as everyone probably knows that to go sort of further, you need some academy players to go in that squad, and that's probably one of the reasons that Man United and Chelsea's fall down a bit. Because the damn academy players not come through, and you're loaning them out, and you're spending all these 100 million. Going back to the stats, you can't really blame him too much because that boy Nicholas Jackson, he was firing him in a Villarreal. That's probably what they went off going off stats, and then he got to Chelsea, and then I can't remember he doing too much. I think he's only got like 2 or 3 goals. I know he missed like 5 chances at Christmas Eve against Wolves. Like that was like all them stats going out the window, like, and you can't do much against Wolves. And there's been a few other games like where he's missed loads, which if you're expecting to go off stats and you're betting money for him, I can't really put chances in. Whereas over the years you had the Drogba, Diego Costa, they get the goals. You always expect Chelsea to have that front man. They get 15 plus goals. I can tell you next January, and that boy Nicholas Jackson won't get more than 10.
I think Chelsea made a massive mistake getting rid of that. Is it Timo Werner?
You know,
I think he's class. I just don't think they played him in the
that's
right
one thing
way.
because he's went to their London rivals.
Is he back in the Prem now, is he?
He's went back to Spurs. Spurs.
Oh, interesting move that. But they're a team that will kill a player off anyway.
Yeah, and I think his play suits that. And Pascal's there with Son and Warner on the counter, which, but it's his finishing. I think it's a surprise one because like probably people went off stats to see him at Leipzig, and then now he went to Chelsea, didn't do much, and then he loaned back out again, and then now he's back at the Prem.
See, if you went off stats that you'd say that Patrick Bamford's a good striker for Leeds United, and I watch him week in, week out, and he's not. He's not. Believe me, he's not.
Went off stats years ago, I would have got scared for Barcelona. My younger days, I was taking in 70 goals.
Oh, if that was the case, my lad would be playing for Barcelona as well. I think a couple of seasons ago, he scored 100 goals in a season.
Yeah. I think it's, I would be more visual. I would need to actually see the player and then see him a good few times. But that's good sort of one I want to ask you. How much times would you see a player before making that judgment?
Oh, it all depends on the scale of
I would probably guess 5. My opinion. 5. I would probably want to 5 times.
It all depends on the scale of the scouting and dependent on if it's adults or kids. If it's adults, it's going to be a few more because the club is spending money on this player. And for the clubs that I've worked for, money is not always available, let's say.
Yeah.
So if they're looking at a player, they'll be looking at him for a long time. If they're spending 40 grand as a Grupo 4 division team in Spain, that's like £1 million to them. They need to watch that player 3, 4, 5 times. At other clubs, it depends on the judgment. With kids, I don't think you need to watch them that often. I'd say 2 times, and then you get them in the coaching areas. Because as much as a player's good as a kid, they have to be okay with the coach. So I've seen many, many good players that play really well on a Saturday. I've seen them play a couple of times, but just don't like the coaching or don't like an aspect of something, or there's just something that they just don't like. So it's non-transferable. But yeah, it all depends on the team, the club, and what they're looking for. If you're looking for a striker, you want to watch him 2 or 3 times because he might not score in those games, but he might do everything else but.
This is good. Do you think that's the opposite with just going football now? Do you think most of these scouts are going off stats, and that's why? Because most transfers, you very rarely see a big transfer. Because look at another one back at Chelsea, it's Moise Caicedo, like 100 million. Like personally, I don't think, in my opinion, Chelsea lost them that much. I think they went off stats because they had a good year at Brighton, but spending 100 million.
I think Chelsea flapped. I think Chelsea, for oh my goodness, it's not working out like it did.
I think both stats rather than physical, in my opinion. More the stats, because Nicholas had a good year at Villarreal. Moise Caicedo had a good year at Brighton of stats wise. Both of them come to Chelsea. Like if you're spending 100 million, like you would need to think he's a banker. You need to think he's sort of at that top sort of level. He's a good player, but I don't think
he's
he's
not.
like 100 million. Like that's near
But
to
that sets the precedent now for the rest of the Premier League, doesn't it? To say that Chelsea can buy a bang average player for 100 million. So that now means any player that's like the Mutts. So as an example, if Harry Kane was to come back to the Premier League, it's going to cost the team millions to sign him again, unless it's a Bosman, due to the fact that other players of not as good pedigree are going for silly amounts of money. And it's no disrespect to that fella from Brighton, but that is an insane amount of money for a player like that, isn't it? Like Anthony is another prime example. When he was at Ajax, I thought he was class, but he's not £100 million player. If that's the case, go back in a day. How much would Wayne Rooney have been worth when Man United bought him from Everton? Because didn't they pay 20 or 30 million at the time?
Yeah, it was one of the, like, at that sort of stage, it was a high fee at that time. Like 30 million, you can't even really get a player for 30 million.
See, I'm that old. I can remember when Rio Ferdinand went to Man United and it was 30.1 million, and he was the most expensive defender of all time. If, like as you just said, you spend 13.1 million now, you're barely going to get a bang average centre half, and
me as a Swansea fan, like some of these championship players are worth near 25 to 40 million. That's championship, and then you go up the Prem, an average one would be like 60 million, an average for the Prem.
Like, I'm not sure how much Leeds played for the striker that we bought from you, but he's class.
We should have got more.
Was it tiny amount? Was it like more? 7 or 8 million? Was it?
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. I said that we should have got at least 25, 30 million. He's top goal scorer for us 2 years in a row.
I honestly, when I saw that we spent that amount of money, I was doing a little dance in the street, mate. I'll be honest with you. Look at all the other players that we've had from you as well. I think you had Rondon as well, didn't you? The centre half we've got.
I voted Matthews, and then I think he's now at Spurs.
No, we've got him. He's on loan with us.
Yeah, he went to Spurs and then he went to use one of the Spurs didn't use.
Another player that I would suggest people would think is worth
but that was a hurler by Spurs.
A fair amount of money.
Hurler by Spurs as well, though. Like, I don't think he would have been Spurs. I think he's more Leeds level. Like, Spurs are trying to get not top 5. Like,
Spurs bought Jack Clark off us about 5 years ago for £10 million when he was 17. He'd only played 5 games for Leeds when they spent that money.
Yeah. It's
sort of like outrageous amounts of money for bog standard players.
Like, all Leeds, like, Roden can go to Spurs and do nothing, then he can go to Hughes and probably do all right at the minute. But
he's one of our best players at the minute.
Yeah, he's at that sort of level. But like some of these big clubs are just, I was shocked when Spurs bought him off us. Because I thought, because he came through our youth and then we sold him on and he didn't do well at Spurs. So, like, that sort of way Chelsea and the Spurs are going. Like, these transfers are just coming out of the blue in the Premier League.
Did you not see the one a couple of years ago or last season where Liverpool signed that player from Preston and they never even played him, the defender?
I think I heard about that one.
Is it Ben Davis or Ben something?
Oh, he went from left back.
Yeah, he went from Preston to Liverpool to cover, never played a game, and they got rid of him at the end of the season.
Yeah, that was one of the. It was all over Sky Sports as well. That one, because I remember at Preston he was doing all right, but I was going that Liverpool have Robertson and stuff, and they were Klopp just got him in because of just a wee backup, and they didn't even play.
And they paid a handsome sum for him as well, didn't they? And no disrespect to him, but he obviously was doing okay for the club he was at, but not well enough for that type of move, surely.
Like, you can go through numerous, but it's a hard one because I think they got Chelsea one. I think they went more off the stats, but I think that United one, and Hike used to coach him. Like, I think he went more physical, so it can work in your bad favour if it's bad, sort of in either way. Because I think more the physicals with Ten Hag, in my opinion, but more stats for Patch. So, like, either way can have their negatives. So, like, it's
like a story, isn't it? Looking at everything is like a story. And that's the way that I'd put it to you. That
I think some of them rush too much in. Like, because them clubs are under huge pressure. Like, they're rushing so in this market now that you're rushing sort of in there.
And Chelsea could never go to Real Madrid or one of their stars because it would cost them 200 million, 300 million pounds. It's just for an established player that will do something. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just never going to happen. Like, you're never going to get Chelsea by Neymar unless he's on a Bosman.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? They're never going to go and buy that player because he would cost them 400 million quid.
But that's what I'm like some of these transfers, like with big money, like there's better players in the market you can get cheaper. If you go out and probably you know yourself in the scouting world, like surely like there is a better player out there that you can get below 100 million that is better than Conceded.
It's status. That's what it is with the big clubs. Status. They probably don't even want the player. They just want to prove that they can pay that type of money for a player if they want to. It's showing a bit of like it's like a boxer showing off his muscles in a weigh-in, isn't it?
If the muscles and then PSG's the example. Look at the amount of money they spent and then they've like hunted back at it. So like it shows you that money can't really buy success. It helps, but it's not all the be end of it.
100%. Because if that was the case, no grassroots team would ever do anything, would they?
Yep, it's 100% that if you look too much into it, then that sort of backs it up that the grassroots won't really do too much. Topic 2, going off the sort of the mighty Jose Mourinho, he recently got sacked. What sort of next for him, in your opinion? What's next? Do you think he'll go to international, or do you think he'll come back to the Prem?
I don't think he'll come back to the Prem. I don't see that as an option for him. I think he's done what he could have done in the Prem. I think when he was at Tottenham and they sacked him before that cup final, they kept him. It would have been a different story.
That was a shocker. I'm a Mourinho fan. I was fuming at that. His final records only once defeat. That was at Roma.
Why do I get the feeling that he was in the chairman's office and he basically told Daniel Levy to go forth and multiply, but in a very unpolite way? And then he basically said, well, off you go, son. There's the door. This is my club. I think he'll take a little time out. It wouldn't surprise me if he took a national side because I feel that's all he's got left to win, isn't it?
He won everything in sort of the domestic competitions.
Like, I'm sure every England fan would want him at England, surely. You would think, wouldn't you?
Chelsea, Real Madrid. Like, he's done all them clubs. Like, the only sort of one would be Portugal. I would love to see him at the international stage. Because, like, imagine seeing him at the next World Cup.
Like, the problem with that is he doesn't have his players day in, day out. That's why international management is easier, harder, either way. Because you don't have the players for the amount of time that you'd want. So in an international year of football, you probably have them players, 6 weeks out of 52? If you're lucky. If they're not injured. If you're not flying somewhere. X, Y, and Z kind of factors. So maybe his style of management wouldn't suit international football. I could see why it wouldn't, because he's a man manager. He'd want to have his players in every single day, giving him a cuddle, picking him up.
Like, it's hard at that sort of, if you don't have him day in, day out, because he had his sort of football, it's hard in today's football, I think, because the way it's all adapting, like, he wants compactness in that defence, and you don't have them week in, week out, you say. How are you going to get that compactness at the back forward, not get through the lanes? And plus, but another thing that could work, that he did used to work with Ronaldo before. I know there's negatives about it, like he doesn't have the time, but like he used to help out with Ronaldo, and like that sort of could give him that motivation. And
I get
you know yourself with Mourinho that when people saying you can't do it, that gives them a bit of kick up the arse.
See, if I was Mourinho, I'd want to prove a point. I'd go and take a really low-level side, international side, to prove a point. So, like, I think Carlos, I'm going to say his name wrong, Carlos Quinteros, you know, the fella that used to be the assistant manager at Man United with Fergie. Yeah. He took the Iran or Iraq team, didn't he? And they did really, really, really well when they had him. And I think he just took that job to prove a point. Now, if I was Jose Mourinho, wouldn't you look around and think, I've achieved everything. If I'm not going to get the Portugal job or the England job or the Brazil job, why don't I take a little lowly country like Iceland or somebody that's terrible to prove a point how good I am of a coach? I can take this body big ears little country.
And then getting into people's head. That would be a gag, wouldn't it?
Just imagine if he took Northern Ireland. Just imagine. You would win games. And it wouldn't be because your players would change. It's because you'd win games because of him and him alone. Do you see what I'm saying? How much of a challenge would that be that he went into, like, if he went to Scotland and Scotland got to the semi-final of the Euros? Could you imagine?
It's that sort of question, but I think in his mind that he wants a big opportunity, and I think Portugal is that. I think they could have done more at that World Cup as well. And I think he probably sees that he drives to probably win where he's from. Like,
Why haven't they brought him in sooner? That would be my question. Because obviously Portugal want to win, don't they? They're not like, as we've just discussed, they're not a smaller nation that has no chance of winning. Portugal have a legit chance of winning things, or they did do in the last 10 years with the players that come through.
but I might be
Ronaldo
wrong,
is the
but
problem.
like, I might be, but have they ever won the World Cup? I know you've been around longer than me. I don't think way back. I know Brazil won it a good few
I've
times. Spain.
got a feeling they might have won it when Eusebio was playing, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, but for my time, I haven't. For my, I've
Yeah,
always been that sort of Brazil, Spain, no, Italy.
the only time that I can remember them getting to a final is that Greece one.
Yeah, that big sort of question that it's been a long time. And imagine Mourinho went to Portugal, won that World Cup, and then it would go that Ronaldo and Messi's equal in World Cups.
What would he have left to do? Would he have left to do? Because he's not that old, is he, compared to some other managers? Like he's not
26
like
trophies. Like, them 26 trophies. Like, what more? If he
yeah,
wins
but
that
you
World
you know
Cup,
as a coach, you want as many trophies as possible. Every trophy I've entered ever, I want to win.
yeah, you could say at that Roma team. I think what got him is that it let him get to his head too much. If he gets sent off week on week, like, I think he's seen the pressure of like the Inter, the Napoli, the AC Milan, Juventus coming back into Lazio, and he's just going, this series has got way tougher than the last time I was in it.
Yeah, so that's a clever move, though, isn't it? If you identify that that league's far too strong for the capabilities of the expectation of the club you're at, then
But he
maybe you
still
would
got them
leave.
two Europa League. I know one Europa League conference he won it, but he got them to a Europa League final, which is his first final that he lost. Like,
Didn't he get a tattoo after that as well? After one of them finals of all the trophies he's won? I'm sure I saw it on social somewhere.
I think he got one of them tattoos that resonates with
Hmm.
the sort of trophies. But like, if you look at that one final lost, and in my opinion, it was a robbery. They got Seville. That was a disgrace. No
hmm
wonder he chased the ref in the tunnel. His first
hmm
finals are ref. Oh, you know yourself, you'd probably do the same. You might have done it in the past, but I've chased the ref before.
No comment. As I'm now a ref, no comment.
I got a 5 match ban. Guess what happened? Our player was 1-on-1. The centre back came behind our striker, wiped him clean out, didn't even get the ball, and he didn't even give a pen. It was the worst decision I've seen in my life. And
Oh my God, from a refing point of view, that's a dog so situation.
this was under 16. Like, this player, it was horrible challenge, and the ref had a good view. And this was a big cup game. Like, we were way underdogs. Like, it would be in terms of, we'd be like a Stevenage, and the team we were playing, Crusaders, would
Hmm.
be a sort of Premier League team. So, like, we were big underdog. We were going head to head. So this would have probably level it. And we were going. I was in shell shock. My man went after about a minute. He didn't give it. I was going. I've never seen this before. And like, there's a bit of rivalry between the other club. We were not getting some decisions, and I
Hmm.
just lost it on the pitch and chased them. And then the game we got abandoned.
That's definitely a dog so though, a denial of a goal scoring opportunity, isn't it? Well, that's what it
Like,
sounds like anyway.
this one, he couldn't even back up the point. Like, that's what some referees do. Like, when you don't have a clear, I know VAR makes mistakes, but this one, if you're in clear and obvious, he didn't get the ball, and the way the player landed, I'm surprised our player didn't get injured. Like, that could have been a life-threatening injury because his leg bent, and the
Ugh,
player was
it
down.
sounds nasty.
The player was down for a while. Like, I'm behind. Like, you know yourself, if the player came sideways, should have been an argument. This player came behind, and I don't know much players that come behind when 1-on-1. It's not, unless you're sort of Maldini and you're sort of that world
That
class.
sounds like tired, lazy legs that couldn't catch up with your striker. That's what it sounds like to me.
But like, this was, I've never seen anything like it. Like, I don't think we'll ever see a decision not given. I haven't seen any as bad in Premier League or any. This decision, I'll never forget it till the day I die. This was absolutely
Oh,
life
Jesus.
threatening.
It does sound bad, doesn't it?
Like, that sort of, but you get where Mourinho came from. Like, I would do the same. Your first, and that was, and it had VAR and stuff, and so many indecisions were like, they just didn't want Mourinho to win. Because I think he said something midweek, didn't he? I think he said leading up to something that could
To be
irritate the
honest,
belt.
I get that with him though, because I feel that sometimes. In hindsight, I felt last season when I was an 18s manager, my reputation came before the games. So I think a lot of decisions went against me just because it was me. Rightly so, because I am, as I've told you before, a proper gob during games. So I can understand now being a ref how my gob would intimidate refs or subconsciously make them go against me. I totally get it. I do.
But people, like when you're in it, like emotions do get. But like when something's like, and that was a big cup game, and Mourinho's like, mine was a big cup. Like we were heavy underdogs. Like you understand. I know, like except like I done the 5 match ban. Understood. I forget. I was probably wrong. But like the emotions
Mm.
caught up. See, Mourinho, people don't understand that day in day out, and then you're getting robbed, clear and obvious. Like that was a clear and obvious penalty, and that you get where you come. Some people just look at the negative, and some will probably call me I'm a head case.
Mm.
But like you need to, you're not on the sideline. You don't like what you said. Like football is the life. Like it's my life.
I'd love that moniker. I'd take that all day long. If somebody, as I said to you before, somebody called me an animal and told me I wasn't fit to coach, that was music to my ears. And I'm loving my life because all my job's done.
Yeah, it's 100%. But what he does, most of his raids, if you can look at how much, like, there's one in the Serie A that he got 2 yellows. One yellow, first one was stepping onto the pitch, like just stepping over the line. And the referee just went yellow, and then a few minutes later, he went nuts about the season, second yellow. But, like, some managers, like, look at Klopp, he does that all the time, come out of the box, and he never gets a fucking yellow. I'm going, they're just out to get
I
me.
would suggest that's the ref getting rid of a problem.
Yeah.
That's the ref taking out a factor that would make it a hard game for the ref. So I do get it from the ref's point of view. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I can understand why it happened. But with Klopp's more of a liked public figure, isn't he? There's not as much hate for Klopp as there is for Mourinho, so he can kind of get away with a bit more. Like you'd expect Roy Hodgson would get away with being a bit of an idiot whenever he wants because he's a bit of a lovable granddad, isn't he? Compared to a younger coach like myself or yourself, who quite clearly our bark's worse than our bite. Do you know what I'm saying? But the bark's still there.
But
So that's what makes it worse. I'm sure there'd be some prejudice against coaches like ourselves because we're a little bit younger and a little bit more not violence, that's the wrong word, a little bit more intimidating.
like, I will never hit a ref. I went up to him and confronted him. I give him a point, but like I would like I hate people like there's stories out there that players or managers would hit a ref. I'm against that. I would never do that. But I give him a point. I would give him where it's going and like he abandoned the match. But like that's one thing you don't hit the ref. But give him the point. But it's adrenaline. It like my hit like you're in the game and like when you see something which is mad is you have to
And
get emotions
I
across.
would suggest with your accent as well, even when you're not being aggressive, it sounds aggressive in the first place. Because I get that all the time because I'm a shouter. Like even
Yeah.
when I'm not being aggressive, just because I'm shouting, it sounds aggressive. You know, like when a dog's barking, but they don't mean to. You know, one of them.
Yeah, people say the same. That people think like when I go crazy, people think it is mad. But as you said, it's totally the volume of the words.
Yeah, mate, I get it all the time. I shout at my players, and I get told off by like loads of people. Why are you shouting at your play? I'm shouting them in a constructive way. I'm not listen to what I'm saying, not the tone of what I'm saying. Listen to the words I'm saying.
The words. Yeah, that like I'm no way. Like I said in the last part of the head of academy that there's as you said that all the learning comes through that sort of tactical. Like I'm learning through my wrongs, but my personality it's hard to change. But your emotions. Like everyone has, like some people are like angels on the sideline. There's their goody goodies with the kids, which
I hate that.
like I am so like competitive. Like I don't like losing anything. Like even if it's a game of pool or darts or whatever, even if there's no money involved, I would not sleep at night. And it's the same that coaching's even worse because there's something up for a league tail with your kids. And like before I came to uni was my last coaching job. We won the League Cup, and that like
Hmm.
was monumental. Like winning that cup throughout the season, cup final in the summer, working 7 months, you win the final. There's no better feeling. Whereas the year before, that's where that madness happened. The year before, so win the year later. After that cup madness with that graph, It makes you go on. Like the adrenaline and the coaching's crazy.
See, the reason you get excited about stuff is because ultimately it's your reputation on the line as a coach. And that's what I say to people. Yeah, it may be the 11 players that are on that pitch or the club that I'm managing or coaching for at the time, but ultimately it's my reputation on the line.
The way I think that Mourinho says that you don't want to lose. You go out to win. Even if whatever it is. I don't like I'm not coaching the Prem, but like kids that was the same. You want to win that match, even if it's against a league below or league above. You're out there to win the match. That's the bottom. I know they improve the kids, but the kids want to win as well. So everyone's on the same boat. Like
I want to win a game of Tiddlywinks if I'm playing it. I don't even care what it is.
Yeah, like I don't care what league it is. Like people say, like it's only kids football. Why? Like I couldn't care. Like honestly, it's the adrenaline of the win that game, whatever it is. Like
the big kicker with kids football is if the minute it becomes competitive and you can win 3 points, then it is about winning the game. Like my lad at the minute is under 10, so it doesn't mean anything. The stats are not published, the leagues are not published, you don't have top goal scorers or any of that business. I understand, I get it. Soon as the stats are published and there's 3 points available, I am winning that game. Because if not, what's the point of me being there?
Yeah, like
what's the point of me competing?
If that game wasn't a cup game, like that ref, I don't think I wouldn't have acted the way I did. But
of course you wouldn't, because you want to win the cup.
We were underdogs against a team 2 leagues above. Of course, but if that game was just like a Mickey Mouse, as you say, if there's something up for grabs, like if I played darts, there is something up for grabs. You want to beat your mate. But if it was like not up, there's not much. But if there's something up, like me versus someone, or that cup game or a league game, like there's of course there's going to be that emotion.
I'm the same with mates as well. I've coached against a lot of mates in the game. You're not my mate for that hour and a half. I want to beat you. If I was coaching against you, we'd be talking before the game, but I am not your mate for that hour and a half. We are far from friends for that hour and a half. And then as soon as the game's finished, we can shake hands and we'll be friends again. It's that mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, 100% like me. I'm not even joking. When I've took a break a bit from the coaching, more in the analysis, but through my first 2 years of coaching, I was up to like 3, 4 in the morning doing tactics.
Yeah, me too.
If I lost that game in the morning, I wouldn't speak to my brothers or for a good few hours. I'd be in a different mood. Like my mood changes completely. Like I think I do have bipolar or something. Because like 1 minute I could be happy and then I turn the Hulk.
Oh mate, I'm exactly the same. That's what football does to you, and that's why we love football.
Yeah.
Because the unpredictability. You always want to win, but it's never going to happen all the time, is it?
But it is a better spell as well when you're up late and your tactics don't work well. But when it's up all night and you win, it's a good beer to have that night.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, but then when it's not, it's that couple of hours walking outside, muttering to yourself, having a win about everything, get it?
Yeah, ripping up. The amount of books and tactic boards I've ripped up, it's unlimited. Like, just keep going.
Oh, yeah. After my last, so I was coaching a team up until about October, a men's team, and I've got a tactics board. In the last game, I smashed it on my knee. Put my knee right through the tactics board because I just lost my head. It's what it is, isn't it? It happens.
And like going off the wrap up the Mourinho sort of topic with the madness. Like I've seen something that he is favourite to go to Saudi Arabia. The second would be Napoli, and then the third would be Newcastle 5-1. And then Chelsea and Bayern are similar with 7-8-1. And then Portugal is 10-1. So my few I thought Portugal, but then I don't know. Like Newcastle is Eddie Howe's under a bit of pressure, but that was going 5-1 and then but 3-1 Napoli though. I know like odds in this, but like the bookies are sort of giving Napoli 3-1 for Mourinho's next job, but I'm going you've been the Serie A way and third in Roma didn't work out too well. No Napoli won their first league in ages. But
yeah,
I don't know.
He's not going to go Saudi. I'll be honest with you. I think at the minute, and I include Jordan Henderson on this one. The Saudi league is full of money grabbing players, just like the Chinese league was when they had money there as well. Mourinho doesn't need the money. So why would he go to a country that's going to pay him tons of money for poor level football? He's not that type of coach, is he? He's not going to bring him down.
Saudi one is an odd one. Like I don't think, as we were saying, that he needs to go somewhere where I know I get why. Probably that point backs up that he doesn't have time with the players. 10 to 1 Portugal, probably that's why. Like he likes to have time, but that's football. It's crazy out there. Like I don't think he would enjoy that. How are you gonna get a team to play that park up a style out there?
Do you really want to play with like coach players that theoretically should be playing League Two football in England? Some of them,
Yeah.
like he's not going to have it, is he?
It's
He's
an
either going to
interesting one.
go.
Like
He'll go somewhere big. It'll be Newcastle's a good idea, but I don't think he'll come back to the Prem. I think he's done his business in the Prem, isn't he? If he was going to go anywhere in the Prem, it'd probably be Chelsea again. You would suggest, wouldn't you?
but here, there's a lot of pressure on the Tuchel. I seen the other day at the Bayern Munich,
Um,
and he's same odds as Chelsea's Bayern Munich because he hasn't been out in that Germany yet.
he hasn't, but would he?
Try something
That's the
new.
question. Yeah, but is it
But like,
continental enough
what
for him?
more can he do at Chelsea? That is the question. Like everyone's saying, the special one back Chelsea, Chelsea, but like he won 3 titles there. Why would you want to go
Um,
like that sort of achieve? I know, like we all want trophies, but like try something new. I think what Mourinho
That'd
does.
be an ego boost. I think if he was feeling a bit temperamental about how things finished at Roma, going back to Chelsea would be a comfort blanket. You know, like a child that has like a teddy bear. That's what it would be.
Let me tell you why I think at Newcastle won 5-1. Imagine he goes to Newcastle and upsets the new Liverpool manager and Pep and Mikel Arteta. He would be going absolutely bananas. Imagine
Um,
that's what he's thinking that, and he's got the money as well. First time in a way that he's got money,
mm,
and St James's Park, which is buzzing at the minute. So motivation, because Newcastle are still like in the top, not even in the top 3 to win the league. Like that would be an upset. Like them managers.
see, I think
That's
the
when you're at
problem there is
Chelsea next season. So when you join Newcastle for September, like
it's
that.
that financial fair play business though at Newcastle, isn't it? That's got them in the poo there. So they can't buy the big players due to the fact that they have to sell loads of players already. Isn't there like talk that Isaac was going and all of those type of players so they could fund some more different moves? So they've got the money, they just can't spend it, which is an outrage, isn't it? Compared to some other clubs. Like imagine you're sitting at Newcastle, you've got a coffers of like £1 billion and you can spend 20 quid. Because financially fair play, you can't spend that amount of money. Imagine.
The overlap the other day, they were going nuts about this sort of that Everton or in that other case, whereas Man City, it could be in our 3-4 years still, because they have still got thousands of documents. Thousands. It's been going on for 6 years, Gary Neville was saying. Like how people are going like other clubs going, what's going on? What is going on? Whereas Everton get points deduction, where City run the way. That's why I have always said Pep is a fraud. Whoever wants to argue, you've got my Instagram, you've got my YouTube. Let's have a debate.
I think you're going to have a little bit of hate mail from that one, I guess.
No, when Coach and I said the same with lectures and everything, I just don't like him. I would say that Mourinho and then Diego Simeone, they're my top 2. That's what I base my style on. Or Sam Allardyce. My team, 6 to back, big
No.
striker, get it up there, flick runs.
Didn't really do it for my team. He didn't keep me in the Premier League.
Yeah. In the
But yeah, I get you.
You wouldn't want to Tuesday night away to Patrick. My team.
See, I do like. I have a lot more respect for managers that do it from nothing than been put on a plate. And I'll be honest, that's another thing that really winds me up. Ex-professionals get jobs that they should have nowhere near. They should be nowhere near getting that job. Like Wayne Rooney, prime example. He's been in like the team in the MLS and then he went to Birmingham.
Like, as we're both championship fans, like we know that that Birmingham man was in class, John H's, and he just got sacked. They were in the
And
top
it does
5,
my
and then the sack they're way down to like 13, 14.
it does my head in that I've been coaching for what 5, 6 years maybe now. I have got no chance of getting even like a step 4 club in England. So what makes Wayne Rooney, and I get because he was a player, what makes him a better
Frank
coach than
Lampard as
me?
well, mate. Frank Lampard as well, mate. Like all these actors, you can play the ball. As I say, you can play the ball, but like Mourinho never kicked the ball, and he is the best.
And he tested himself at the lower league clubs in
Definitely.
Portugal, X, Y, and Z. I think it's honking that because you're Frank Lampard, you get to go and manage Derby County. What on earth gives you the right to think that you can do that because you've played in a Champions League final? That means nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just not.
I think, like me trying to get in that sort of world, I'm trying to change the route because I think the coaching route is a lot tougher because owners are looking at these ex-players, which is a lot harder. As you say, like your experience is phenomenal, and for you to try and why is Derby not bringing you? Like, you know what I mean?
But just look at some of the
It's the Mourinho.
other
They don't
clubs.
like this touchline, Mourinho.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And
I'll be honest.
that's
My outspokenness has probably cost me two
I'm
or
not
three
joking.
jobs that I know of.
I'm not sure. I seen one of recent Rooney's games, right? And he never moved away from his seat, sitting on that seat. I'm going, look at the Premier League. Most of them, like I like Brentford, Thomas Frank. He's always moving about the tactic board half time where like, if players want to come over and if there's a player down, he always motivates. Wayne Rooney, as you said, he got appointed that job. This was, I think it was Birmingham. Yeah, Birmingham. He was just sitting in the box. And I'm going, what are you doing? Like, well, like, where's this other coach? I think it was Millwall or something. He's running up and down. Whereas Rooney just sitting
I
there.
don't sit down to watch games on the telly, let alone games that I'm coaching. Like I've looked at a Fitbit. Used to have a Fitbit on me in my first season at Wellingborough Town under-18s. I used to look at it and my heart rate was outrageous. Like I'm looking at my assistant saying, "Am I having a heart attack here or what?" Because look at this heart rate here. This ain't normal. And I don't sit down. I've never sat down. If you sat down, that instantly shows your players that you're gone.
Yep.
If like another prime example, if my players are wearing shorts on the pitch, guess what I'm wearing? Because it ain't trousers and it ain't a suit. Yeah, because I want my players to look at me and think, if he does it, I can do it. Do you know what I'm saying? My players are not allowed to wear gloves because I think that is the biggest like red flag that your players are wuss.
Yeah, wearing gloves like
My players get. But I fine players, clubs that I've been at, I fine players for wearing gloves. Yeah, wear your gloves all you want. That's a £10 fine.
You have
Guess how many times they wore
you
the
don't
gloves
wear the
after that
sliders.
£10 fine?
You don't wear the sliders at £10 as well. While you're getting into the shower, all them ones.
Yeah.
First £20. Wear
Yeah,
the gloves, no
yeah, but
sliders.
to be fair, I like a slider, so.
Yeah, so the final one, on this topic,
Go on.
I think you'll go to Newcastle. What's your final one?
I'll go with you. I'll say Newcastle. I'll go with you on that one.
Hopefully, and with all these sort of questions, it's a recent topic, but I think only Newcastle, if it's this sort of upcoming season. But I think you could be right early on. You're saying he may take a year out.
Yeah, it would make sense, wouldn't it? And especially he's got a family, isn't he? And imagine Mrs. Mourinho. She's probably seen him for about 20 minutes in the last 10 years. So she probably wants a bit of time with her husband, to be honest.